But some of the hardest things for me were like doing CPR in front of family members. And that to me was terrible. I mean, we had one where a guy was having a heart attack. He was laying on his bed. We had to pull him off the bed, put him on the floor, doing CPR on him, and I'll never forget it.
You can't do CPR on a bed.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
His daughter, she had to be about 8 or 9 years old. She was on the bed like this, just looking at us. She goes, "Is my daddy going to die?" And it was,
And you being the heartless son of a bitch you did. Yep.
dead already.
No, you know what? You just say,
what do you say? You jump right. We're doing everything we can.
Yeah. You fall back into that routine. You gave me the COVID, didn't you?
oh, me? No. No. Stop this. I got my temperature thing done.
I've had some
Rectally.
pediatrics. Pediatrics are always very dangerous to deal with because you gotta go home after that. And if you have kids, the rule is, or what you're always told is, you will superimpose your children's
Right.
Put some over top.
I got it.
Just
You don't think I write this stuff down when I go home?
translating.
He was on the show once or twice, so he wrote a lot of stuff down.
Can't you hear like like everything is smooth now?
It is
I'm
smooth.
serious.
Clear.
You don't even have to fill in my phrases anymore.
So you superimpose your child's face onto a lost pediatric death. But I remember, I think the toughest ones for me is when just the end of life, no dignity. You know, you go to some old person's house to render medical aid. They call 911, and you're there, and this old guy's got his balls hanging out, or the woman's vagina's hanging out, or boobs are out. You know, their teeth are on the ground. They got no hair. They're just there's tons of people around them, seeing them at their worst. And I know for a fact, without you guys ever telling me this, you've walked out of medical calls talking to your partner or whoever you're with, don't ever let me get like that. Just take me in the woods, but two behind you. We've all said it. And it sounds very harsh for people to say, for us to say that, especially when we're in those situations. But I know I don't want to do that. I don't want to die.
But the normal person doesn't see that every day. In law enforcement and, EMS field, especially, we see that on a daily basis. We see people when they're at their worst. And how do you separate seeing someone at their worst, especially coming from a small town, as someone you know?
Yeah, that's a.
Before we get into the most rewarding calls, I want to remind all our audience, one of our biggest supporters is the Grand Saloon in Clifton. Go out there and visit them. Nick will take really good care of you. Go to 940 Van Houten Avenue in Clifton. Great food, great fun. Just go on thegrandsaloon.com. That's GRANDE saloon.com. Take a look at their menu. I'm telling you, it's going to be one of the most happy, friendly places. You're going to meet great food, good people, and you're going to have a great time.
I have to, hold on. I got to reverse back. I kind of misunderstood that question about pediatrics. I just thought it was, something else. I mean, I've had cases with pediatric, no deaths, but you just brought up something, and it was, I was doing CPR to my own father.
Oh,
and you brought up the thing about the bed. Like, so that, honestly, I'd have to say, I was home, I wasn't on duty. Obviously, we're always on duty, but that was probably one of the most impactful things in my career. Like, and just like you said, I was by myself, listen, I knew he passed, he was young, but that had to be, if I go back, that had to be one of the worst things.
Working on a family member, you know what? That's a different wrinkle.
And then you're like, you're like, I was I was an instructor, and the guilt, like, it was just, but I didn't. That's why you throughout your career, you do as best as you could, because something like that could happen to your own. You know what I mean? So you treat everybody just like family.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, because they're going to respect you for it.
Right.
You're going to give a little bit of compassion at the end of life, because we're all going to get there, brother.
Right.
We all got an expiration date.
The other thing, too, is what about that helpless feeling when you lost someone when you're doing CPR?
Yeah, you walk out, put your head in your hands, and
you feel like a loser, walking out past the family. I mean, we obviously did everything we do.
Can't look at them.
You're sweating like crazy. Your uniform's all disheveled because you're your bag valve mask and pumping on the chest and switching up, and everybody's. But you get that feeling like, what just happened?
Your soul is gone.
Yeah, and now you got to suck that in because you got another call to go through right after that. You know,
Right,
and how do you leave that CPR call and just act like nothing happened and go on to the next call?
It sucks to deal with those, but it is part of the job. We all understand that it's part of the job. Doesn't mean we got to like it. Doesn't mean we got to move past it because we do take that stuff home. But there were some great calls that we all went on. There were some really, really great calls. Some rewarding calls. Mike, what do you think the most rewarding type of call that you could go on?
I from what I've heard, I've never seen it, but a childbirth. Apparently very sloppy but rewarding.
I don't know, man. I've been there and I started seeing it coming out and I was just like, that's not natural, man.
But to me, pretty much the most rewarding were CPR saves. You know, when paramedics tell you, hey, we got a pulse back. You know, now you're sitting there, all that hard work, finally coming to fruition, and now you're like, you walked out of there. Like I said, when you lose a CPR patient, you walk out there, you're, slumped over and, hanging your head. And when you hear that you got, they got a pulse back, and now you get some pep in your step. Now you're helping them with the stretcher. If you're upstairs, you get the Reeves and you run down the stairs and all that.
There's so many losses. It's nice to have a victory.
Oh yeah. Listen, I used to call myself the defibrillator of death because I lost more people than I could even count.
Those fucking defibrillators don't work.
I always said I should just hook the defibrillator up to the guy's balls and give him one last fucking jolt because I ain't saving him. I was. Listen, I'm not saying I was terrible at it, but in order to use a defibrillator, you have. There's a certain time frame where you have to be there. The guy can't be dead for 24 hours and all of a sudden you hit him with a defibrillator. It's not a magic box.
We found a child that was missing. It was a 3-year-old. We found he just wandered off. He's in the woods. But I had kids at the time. And I remember I found him in the woods. He just wandered off. It wasn't the parents' fault. It was just bad timing. And I remember getting this kid, bringing him back, handing him off to the parents. I watched the parents give him this gigantic hug. And I remember standing there, and I actually put, how you put your hands on your gun and your radio, and I felt like Superman. I really felt like Superman. Mike, what do you think?
Obviously, both of what you were talking about. That's everybody's. I think it's everybody police officer's dream. Like, hey, I did this. I would say, mine was in the investigative bureau. Just getting through months and months and months of a case, and then you're
solving that puzzle.
Yeah, and that's
finally cracked that case.
I know it's like obviously everything like what you're talking about is fantastic, but it's I guess it's like work, and the most thing is appreciation. Believe it or not, like hey,
we're all retired now, so what do you think? What do you still love about the job?
The camaraderie, it definitely faded away. I love that part. It's I don't know. It's just not the way it used to be. So I don't.
Well, the big saying is once you retire, you miss the clowns, but you don't miss the circus.
Right.
And that's it. I miss the guys. I miss the camaraderie. I miss the ability to actually be able to help people.
True.
But on another note on that one, Mike, I'm going to have to call bullshit because what we're doing here with this show, and that's our purpose, is to help people.
Oh, I'm talking helping from a law enforcement perspective.
I help people. You don't. You just make them feel better about the way they look.
Yeah, and I make them feel taller when I get there, too. And younger.
And younger.
And a lot more hair.
Once again, the oldest guy in the room.
Go ahead.
Listen, we got a
kids, Big Ben Parliament.
We actually got a World War II vet coming in who was in Normandy.
Really?
Finally, Mike won't be the oldest man in the room by like a year or two.
Wow, Normandy.
Yeah,
it's kind of amazing.
Yeah, a couple years. But that's our plan. But again,
did I ever tell you I want to be an air traffic controller?
They say that's the most stressful job out there, right?
Yeah, it is. it is. But no, there was a whole story about us flying out to Florida, and we just kept going around Newark Airport because we couldn't find parking. It was a whole thing. It was like Big Ben Parliament from European Vacation. It goes by the first time. Hey, ever tell you I want to be an air traffic controller? Second time, same thing. Fifth time, same thing.
See, that's stress.
Yeah. But
try driving with Kevin around an airport 52 times. That's stress.
We got there.
Yeah.
We got there. Listen, I'm early to everything, so thankfully, this is why I'm early to everything. But, I love that job. I really did love that job. And there's a lot of things that I don't miss about it. I don't miss, again, I worked in a very toxic environment, so I would throw up before I went on patrol. But once I was out on the road, everything was fine. It was calm. I was the master of my own domain, where I was able to either make a difference or do nothing. What I miss the most, and this is going to sound really crazy, is I miss doing accidents. I love doing it.
Oh my goodness.
I loved doing car accidents. Loved it. I love the math involved. I love to see what happens.
Something wrong.
Mike, now you know what I'm dealing with. I mean,
yeah. I was that guy who loved doing accidents.
Oh my goodness.
As a matter of fact, I made a deal with.
That's the scariest thing for me.
I made a deal with
kind of dispatcher.
I made a deal with a guy I used to work on the road. He used to be in the DB. He used to do a lot of DVs. I said, you take all the domestic paperwork. I will take every accident. I'm getting the short end of that stick. That's how much I hated domestic violence, but that's also how much I loved doing accidents. Because I loved you're showing up to people and they're in the worst. They're having the worst moment of that day.
Oh, I get it.
And you get to show up there. Look, it's going to be okay. You take control of the situation. It's very easy to take control of an accident. It's not very easy to take control of a domestic situation or any other situation where a crime in progress or somebody's really hurting or a medical call where you lose them. But for an accident, it was real easy for me to take control and give them a little bit of happiness, a little bit of peace. And I loved doing it. I loved the math involved in it. I loved the energy that was created. I was a crash guy. That was my favorite thing. And I also loved seeing what happens, the aftermath of it, following it all the way through. I imagine it's the same thing in the detective bureau. Again, I didn't have knee pads, so I didn't get in my detective bureau. And like both of you guys, I don't want to point that out. But
I got put in the detective bureau. I was in Iraq. So I don't know how that happened. I don't.
Because I didn't think you were coming back.
Exactly. I was like, oh,
this guy a bone.
Hey, you just got. I was like, wow,
back.
That's kind of great.
Meanwhile,
I swear, I got to call my sailor phone. I'm like, oh shit, we're getting mortared right now, and this guy's telling me I'm going into the bureau. I'm like, what the?
Meanwhile,
I said, hold on, let me
Chief,
just. I can't
Chief,
wait.
hang on. Keep firing. Keep firing. All right, what was that, Chief?
It was all meant good, I guess they didn't know what was going on at the specific time. I don't think a badge is going to stop that.
But that's a weird way to find.
I swear, I'm telling you. Yeah.
I think maybe they didn't think you were
should
coming back.
know by now my story. This is serious stuff.
Every once in a while, you throw something new out, and I'm like, "Fuck, man, you really messed up, dude."
Well, that's like, did I ever tell you how I found out I got the job in Lyndhurst?
On episode 9,
I was working for the sheriff's department at that point, and I applied for Lyndhurst. And one day I got a call from my then wife. She says, the mayor just called. I go, what do you have to say? She goes, you got the job. So what he did is he called my house phone and said, is Mike there? She said, no, he's working now. She goes, okay, good. Tell him he's got the job in Lyndhurst. He starts next Monday. That's the way I found out I got the job in Lyndhurst.
See, that's the hook.
That was the hook to bring it home. We've all seen a lot of different things. You guys were on a lot longer than I was. Not a lot longer, but longer. We've seen different things inside of our law enforcement careers, and you've learned a lot. And if you said you didn't learn a lot, then you weren't doing your job properly. So, Mike DePalma, what do you think you've learned from the suffering of police work?
It wasn't as easy as I thought it would be. Meaning, I could have took different steps with, mentally. I could have made better choices.
I think that the main thing I learned is never take anything for granted. Never take another day for granted. You never know when the end is going to be there.
Okay.
You see a guy one day, he's all happy-go-lucky, and the next day you're at his house, doing CPR on him, or he's in a car accident. And we had a guy that was from our town. He's a retired trooper. One of the biggest, burliest guys you'd ever want to meet. Great guy, car fanatic. You know, he's always tinkering with his cars and everything. A minor fender bender. And snapped his neck.
Mhm.
He was paralyzed from the shoulders down from
Damn.
just a minor car accident. Just he hit it the wrong way, his neck snapped, and he was paralyzed. That was crazy. He has since passed away, God rest his soul. But, I mean, great guy and happy-go-lucky, fun-loving guy because he was retired, so he was fun-loving. And, you know, his life just ended right there.
Is it? Do we have to go back to the Mickey Mouse?
No, I'm taking that in that right now. God darn it. Yeah, I guess complacency too. You know?
He's still trying to think about what he learned in his career.
Yeah, I'm like, what the wiffle ball, dead body, Jesus God, Wonder Bread, sock up the ass.
So if anybody wants to know,
pinched.
If anybody wants to know about the sock
Mickey
up the ass,
Mouse.
go to episode 13. That's the suffering of addiction with Mike DePalma.
Oh, I don't know this. I don't know. It's just it was a loving career, but it was also damaging.
That's a good one.
That's how I kind of, you know, I can definitely contest to that. It's damaging.
A lot self-imposed also.
Very, very much.
It's very very simple what I learned. It's you're never as bad as your worst day, and you're never as good as your best day. I've seen a lot throughout my career, and I've seen good people turn bad. I've seen bad people turn good. And it always gave me hope for humanity. I know that sounds like the greatest line made up in history, but I truly believe it because I've seen a lot of people throughout my life go both ways.
Mike, he tried to go deep on us real quick. You know, I mean,
What do you mean?
trying to
He
get all
did.
sentimental and look at
He
me.
just, I got to wind it up. That's the new. I don't know. That just came out. No, it's true.
Mike DePalma, I love you, brother.
Always a pleasure having you
Wait,
in
I
here.
don't want to go.
We have to.
We have to.
No way, man.
The lights.
This
turn out
studio
in
ain't in
about
my
5 minutes.
basement no
come
more.
on, I'm just getting started. Wait.
This is someone else's studio now. So.
This ain't my basement no more, brother.
But will guarantee we will have you back.
Yes, we will definitely
doubt
have you
about
back
it.
if you're willing to come back.
100%. I'm sleeping.
You're
downstairs.
sleeping here, Drew? Is that all right? We're good. All right. Yeah, he said it was all right. Okay. All right. So that's going to do it for this episode of the Suffering Podcast. And let's think about all the stuff that we learned today. Nothing worthwhile is easy. It's not a job, it's a calling. Never take anything for granted, but most importantly, and it's not only because I said it, well, it is because I said it. You're never as bad as your worst day, and you're never as good as your best day.
He's but a self-promoter.
And episode 9 in Prairie Fire. Hashtag.
Hashtag.
And that's going to do it for this episode of the Suffering Podcast. Don't forget to check out Belladama Cigars. Go to belladamacigars.com. Put in the code Suffering10 for a 10% discount. Check out Caffeine and Water, Toyota Hackensack, the Grand Saloon. We're all thankful for you. And don't forget to check out dentaldevelopmentproject.com and check out our nice challenge coins. And that's going to do it for this episode of the Suffering Podcast, The Suffering of Police Officers, with Mike DePalma, Mike Failace, and myself, Kevin Donaldson. Find Mike on Instagram at Mike_Failace. Find me at Real Kevin Donaldson. And always follow the Suffering Podcast. Like and subscribe if you like what you're putting out. Follow our YouTube channel for updates. We'll be putting out about 2 or 3 episodes a week. And that's going to do it for this episode. We'll see you next time.